You know, with a title like Frozen, it's actually kind of hard to make a joke out of it. Oh hey, look, a picture of an ice cube! Yeah, because it's frozen, like the title of the... cut to the review. Hey guys, this is That Movie Nerd here, and I'm here to talk about Frozen. Frozen is the latest film from Disney Animated Studios, and it is basically a fairy tale. Two sisters grow up together in a kingdom, however, one sister has this special power that she feels needs to keep a secret from everyone around her. She can turn things into ice, she can pretty much make winter from her hands, and throughout her life, not even her sister knows that she can do this. However, on what is supposed to be one very important day of her life, the secret gets out to everyone, and she gets scared and creates an eternal winter, which causes her to run away from the kingdom and causes her sister to follow her and try and calm her down. Now, judging by that plot I just gave you, you're probably thinking to yourself, this doesn't sound like the typical Disney fairy tale. But I gotta tell you guys, wow. The animators of Disney give us another fantastic fairy tale with good characters, wonderful songs, great animation, and the warmest heart I've seen in any movie all year. You know, despite all the ice. Now, the big thing about this movie is that this did feel like a classic Disney fairy tale. It feels timeless. This feels like a story in a movie they could have made at any time. In fact, this actually does feel like a film that would have been made during the 90s Disney Renaissance. Now, what's really good about this movie is that the story is excellent. It's excellently thought out, and you can't really predict most of it. And it all comes from the two main characters, Anna and Elsa, who are the two sisters in the film. You really care about these two people, and more importantly, you care about the connections they share with each other. Both these characters have their weaknesses, and you can understand their weaknesses. Elsa is a lot like Rogue from the X-Men in that if she touches something, it turns to ice, and she feels like she needs to keep away from people, which causes the sense of isolation for not only her, but for her sister Anna, which causes Anna to develop a need for companionship, and both of those flaws and those needs balance and work off each other brilliantly. And where that relationship goes, and where each of those characters end up, and how they develop on their own as well as together, it's really sweet, and it's really good. And all the supporting characters in there, they do a good job too. There's one guy named Kristoff who is sort of the leader for Anna on her journey to find her sister, and he's a good leader. He's an interesting character. You've seen this type of character in other Disney films before, but he's pretty likable. There's a snowman named Olaf who is pretty much the Disney sidekick that every single Disney film needs. And looking at him, I thought I was going to get annoyed with him, but I never really did. He had some good jokes, he had some good lines, and he actually sort of helped the story. But what really interests me about this comedy is that it does sort of point out some of the flaws of previous Disney films. Like the Disney logic about marriage and falling in love, it actually sort of pokes fun at that, and I really appreciated that. And on top of these great characters in this really wonderful story, the animation is wonderful. It is a computer animated film rather than a hand-drawn animated film, and it does look incredible. I mean, you can really understand why they decided to make this computer animated rather than hand-drawn originally. And of course, being a Disney film, there's a lot of songs in here, and guys, usually I'm the guy that gets annoyed by the songs. In every film, there's probably about, let's say, 6 or 7 songs. I only really like 2 of them, and I'm annoyed by the rest. But in this film, it was actually sort of the other way around. Almost all of these songs I actually really liked. In fact, there's this one song in the middle, Let It Go, which is Elsa's song. Very good. I had that in my head for the next few days after I saw the movie. They really are wonderful, and I usually don't like the songs, so props to them. And on top of all this, the story and the messages of this film about isolation and letting people in, I love the way it ended. I didn't really see the ending coming, and when it happened, it made sense, and what I appreciated about it was different than any other Disney film. No other animated film, I think, presents the message in this way, and shows this particular message even. Which I think is the real strong part about this movie, is that you do have this story between the two sisters who are sort of isolated from each other, and what they learn about each other and themselves, it's really well done. And what's also really interesting about this film, and you might have noticed this looking at the posters, is there really isn't a villain in this film. The whole film I was waiting for a villain to pop up, and they never did. There's no villain song, there's no evil Disney villain. It's just this conflict between these two two sisters, and they focus on that throughout the entire film, and that really was a strong point of the film. Now, I do have one bad thing to say about this film. Without spoiling anything, there is somewhat of a reveal at the end that I didn't feel needed to be there. As soon as it happened, I thought to myself, oh no, they're throwing all this great stuff away. But as it went along, it actually didn't really affect the story all that much. It was thrown in there to add more conflict, which, you know, it did, but I just felt it really wasn't needed. I think it was just a little bit of wasted screen time, and they felt like they needed to put it in there, but they really didn't. So overall, I really enjoyed Frozen. It goes back to the classic Disney stories that we all love, but it's still something new, and it still tells new messages, and it sort of furthers Disney along. It's like a step up from them, and they really show they want to do this again, which I think is really good. So because of all that, I'm going to give this a 9.5 out of 10. And the other thing I have to say, guys, is before going to this movie, I did not see any trailers. I didn't really know what this film was going to be about. So when things happened, I had no idea they were going to happen, and walking out of it, I was like, wow, that was really good. And then I went online and I saw the trailers, and yeah, the guy who made those trailers needs to be fired. They do not do this movie justice. This film is nothing like those trailers, so I would suggest not seeing any trailers and then going and seeing this movie. And even if you have seen the trailers, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. Alright guys, that's all I have to say about Disney's Frozen. Comment below, tell me if you're excited to see this movie, tell me if you want to see it, don't want to see it. Talk to me, I love talking to you guys. And the question for this video is, what is your favorite Disney film? I'm very curious to see your responses. And yeah, that's all I have to say. So with that, this is That Movie Nerd, signing off.